you've set yourself that goal, isn't it? You've said that in about 3 months' time, I'm going to grow from 2,000 followers that I have on LinkedIn at the moment to 10,000. And it has actually happened.
Yes.
How has it happened?
How can I actually take my skills, what I'm really good at, what I learned in my corporate career and like where I have passion, etc. How can I combine it with like my excitement, like what the world needs, etc.
Yeah.
But also how can I monetize it? Like how can I bring it all together? And honestly, I'm not an expert in it. I'm currently still figuring out what to do. And when I posted on LinkedIn, I got so many responses from different people and they were all brilliant. But to be fair, I think what really came down to was just like, sometimes you just need to step away and to just have a bit of time and space so that you can think clearly.
Hi guys, today at the Future of Skills podcast, I'm very excited to introduce you to my guest, Alicia Tiltz, who is currently someone who is going to help you navigate through a very interesting topic, and that is how to grow on LinkedIn. And so to give you a little bit of background about Alicia is currently working at LinkedIn, and she started to build her personal brand back in February this year, so very recently, which has opened so many doors for her that she's now handed in her notice to start her own LinkedIn marketing agency to advise founders and executives on how to build a strong and powerful brand on the platform that showcases through leaderships and generates business revenue. She's also founded the Level Up Book Club, isn't it? Which is a non-profit community of over 400 people. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more details. And these are international women that come together to read self-development books and empower each other to pursue their goals. Alicia, welcome.
Thank you, Nadya, for having me.
Thank you so much. I think the discussion that we're going to have today is going to be something that I'm personally very passionate about, be it the platform itself, but also how you've grown on the platform, isn't it? Because you've set yourself that goal, isn't it? You've said that in about 3 months' time, I'm going to grow from 2,000 followers that I have on LinkedIn at the moment to 10,000. And it has actually happened.
Yes.
How has it happened?
Thank you for asking. So basically, I do work for LinkedIn, and with my clients, whenever I met them, we were talking about how important it is to show up on the platform. I was working with big companies, so it's like presenting yourself will lead like eyes on your content, etc. That leads to like opportunities, business revenue. And I was always telling them in theory how important it is, but I've never done it myself. So I was teaching them what to do, how to do it, but I have no idea whether it actually works. So I said for myself, okay, in February, I'm just making that goal of like 10,000 followers within 3 months. I had no idea in February whether that is hard, whether it's easy to grow to that number. It's just like a nice number, like 10,000. I plucked it out of thin air. I thought, okay, let's just give it a try. Let's see what happens. And actually it did happen. Like we can go into so much detail, but it's basically like that consistency, showing up, tips and tricks that I learned along the way, and also working for LinkedIn. It's not that they like completely teach you how to do it. I know the basics, but like in terms of like the algorithm, how to craft like a good post, like what really accelerates the growth in the background, that's not something we're being taught. That's not part of our onboarding like schedule. That's something I only figured out when I was doing it. And I just really shared it publicly because I think there's so much power in sharing the journey, because so many people share like, I'm here, I've made it, I've done it, look at me. But actually, like everyone started at zero at some point, and I really wanted to be transparent. What are the hurdles? What are the challenges? Where did I have success so that other people can apply for themselves? And to be fair, when I was doing it, so many doors opened, so many opportunities came my way that now, as you said, like I handed in my notice to start my own agency to advise other people on how they can replicate it and grow for themselves.
Exciting. And as you said yourself, the fact that you've made it public through the whole journey of the challenge made it not only authentic, but also the type of a journey that you could actually resonate and share with people. We start off our podcast conversation usually with a traditional question, because the purpose is not only to uncover the achievements of our guests as they are now full of these achievements, right? But it's also the becoming of who they were once when they didn't have necessarily the luggage of achievements, and how they have navigated through their lifetime to then find themselves, uncover their traits, to then define and shape their identity as they are today. So can you please kindly let us know in 3 words of your choice, how would you describe yourself?
It's so hard to condense it to 3 words.
I know. Tell me about it. It's probably one of the hardest questions on the show.
Honestly, it is. But I think it's like, I'm not sure, it's not just one word, but it's like the can-do attitude. I say this as one word.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just this. Fucking just do it and then figure it out later. So that's my word 1. Second is bold. I'm very unapologetic. I'm just saying things as I feel them, and I stand to my words. So yeah, very bold. The third one is innovative. I always like to think outside of the box, creative, do things that are different, not follow the mainstream. And it can go wrong, it can go right. But I think that just keeps things really exciting and entertaining.
I love that. And as part of what you just mentioned, because I usually ask guests the questions related to the answers that they're giving me, and this is something that inspires me now, your answer in terms of being innovative, being someone who can actually do things, and someone who stands up for, the unapologetical version of yourself as you come along, right? So as part of that, let us dive in a little bit into the journey of becoming you so far. And that was, part of your childhood, part of, who you consider to be your mentors as part of the way. So were there any particular touch points in your journey that you would say, okay, that probably has hinted to where I am now? Was there anything to it?
Yeah, I always think that how we are shaped from a young age is determining where we're ending up, kind of how we've grown up, the role models we had, our parents. In my case, I grew up in a normal working class family. We didn't have a lot of money, but also I had a good life. I had a happy childhood. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but it's not that I am privileged in the way how I grew up in the Western world. I had food on the table, all these things, but it's not that my parents were rich. We had a small flat and had to always kind of figure out how to make money, how to save money, etc. My mom is very entrepreneurial. She had her own little shop. She also had to close that down. You see the ups and downs. It's not just all amazing. But I think I got her spirit in terms of just going after things from her. But I think a pivotal moment in my life was when I was 20. I decided not to go to university. I hated school, absolutely hated learning, doing something that I had no interest in, but forced to do it. I'm very practical. I want to learn by doing. So I hated school. So I decided not to go to university, going against the stream. My sister is so funny. She has a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD.
So very different.
So fucking different. I'm the black sheep in the family, kind of. Right. But yeah, I decided not to go to university. And then I always dreamt of going abroad. I grew up in Germany. That's my accent. I can't hide it. And I always wanted to go somewhere else. So then I just packed my bags, booked a one-way ticket, flew to London, checked into a hostel. I didn't know anyone, didn't have a job, nothing. I had
brave
money.
Thing to do, huh?
I know. But this is you have to get out of your comfort zone. And you just have to, as I said earlier, just to fucking do it and see what happens. I had kind of a plan B in the sense of if it doesn't work out, I would just go back to Germany. I'll move in with my parents again and see what happens. But I just wanted to give it a try. And I was willing to just work at Starbucks as a cleaner, whatever it takes, as long as I can afford the rent and to be in a different country and learn the language. I mean, I didn't speak English. I could speak some English, but not well enough. I actually applied for a cleaning job and I was turned down, which was very disappointing. But in the end, it all worked out. I got a job at a company that needed a German speaker. So this is how it all falls into place. But it's taking that step of just saying, fuck yes, I just try and see what happens. If all goes wrong, what is the worst case scenario? And I was happy with my worst case scenario, which would have been just going back to Germany. But then I know I would have tried.
Yeah.
And that was the most pivotal moment in my life because I took that opportunity, I've done it, and it worked out well. So I know whatever else comes in my life, when I have to make that bold decision, just go for it. Think about what is the worst case scenario. And if you're happy with that outcome, then just fucking do it because then you know you tried. And yeah.
Like I say, it takes a lot of courage and bravery to be able to actually, just do it in a sense that you didn't have much to yourself at the time, right? And you just decided to give it a try and you haven't failed in the sense that, you at least knew that you had that courage to push the barrier further. And to that point, actually, do you still do it to this day, do you think?
I would say so. It's really interesting. I think a lot of my time, so when I was then in my corporate career, after I had that a German speaking job, I took other opportunities and I had a typical corporate career. I worked for MasterCard, for Gartner, big company, now obviously for LinkedIn. You have those golden handcuffs, very comforting salary that you get each month, and then you get complacent where life is good, life is fine. But then I got to a point where it felt very vanilla, everything was just fine.
Too glossy. Right.
Exactly. And then I was just like, okay, now I want to go back to my previous self where I was very adventurous, where I was just going out of my comfort zone and doing things. And this is exactly where now handing in my notice and quitting my job and doing something on my own. I've never worked just on my own and like being responsible for paying the rent each month without having like salary coming in. That is like the biggest like reminder of my previous self where I had made that decision. Now I'm again at a pivotal point in my life. Actually, funnily enough, I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but like apparently every 10 years in your life, something big happens. And for me, that was about like, to be fair, it was about like 12 years ago when I came to London. But now I feel like in my life, this is now the second time where something major is going to happen. And I'm just like, I just have that attitude of it will all just work out. Because the thing is, worst case scenario, again, like thinking about the worst case scenario, I go back to a corporate job. And I'm currently living my fucking like worst case scenario being in a corporate job. So I'm very happy with my worst case scenario. So yeah.
How interesting. And it actually uncovers a characteristic of yourself as someone who is able to pose the question, be curious, and allow yourself to be curious to the full length of it, isn't it? Because I suppose when it comes to that element of bravery, you're driven by something, right? You're driven by the unknown in that sense. So my next question to it would be, what keeps you up at night? What is your driver at the moment?
Oh, it's such a good question.
Thank you. I borrowed it, actually. It's not mine. I borrowed it from someone who is actually, let me just share this point, who I have borrowed this from, because I tend to ask this question every so often, and I need to give credit to the right person. It's Matthew Stafford. He's the owner and founder of the community for founders and entrepreneurs called 9 Others. So Matthew, thank you. You've been on the podcast before. There you go. Over to you, hon.
It is a really good question. I think what keeps me up at night is I've done an exercise, and that was like about 3 years ago, which was imagine yourself, you're like 90 years old sitting on your veranda and you reflect onto your life. And then the exercise was to fill in a questionnaire of like, I regret not having done ... I would have loved to have done ... I would have loved to have said ... Lots of different questions. And what came out of it was like that I'm actually not happy with the life I'm currently living. So what is currently keeping me up at night is, how can I make sure that this 90-year-old self of mine is not disappointed that I haven't tried what I wanted to do?
Love that. But when thinking about your 90-year-old self, right, and looking back to who you are at the moment, because it's similar to how I'm finding myself at the moment, trying to define that pathway. When defining the pathway, there's 2 elements, 2 characteristics or features of everyone, I suppose. One that probably would be very well organized. The other one would be very adventurous, right? So it's like trying to mingle in between the 2 and find out whose voice are you gonna hear a little bit more of. So do you have like a pathway and touch points of like what do you want to try, or like you're just taking them on?
Honestly, it's so tricky because I think we are so logical.
Yes.
Like we try
as human beings generally.
We try to make like the sensible, logical, make sense decisions. But then also we have a heart, we have curiosity, we want adventure and excitement in our life, and that might not be logical. So like the opposite. So it's so hard, and I wish I had an answer for this. So I'm very sorry. But honestly, I think it's just like the older I get, I feel the more I just want to live to my fullest. And that means living more in alignment with myself and switching off that logical brain a bit more. But having said this, I know you're a mother. So it is so much easier for someone in my position to just say, fuck it, I just give it a try, because I'm only responsible for myself. But how do you feel about it, being a mother? Because it must be so different.
Thank you for the question. I feel that when I have started this venture, the podcast as a platform, trying to figure out and speak to so many people, which I currently feel very grateful for, because for me, this is a fulfillment, trying to meet people with all sorts of walks of life, but at the same time with all sorts of learnings around. So I'm learning too. When I'm meeting you, I'm meeting the other guests and whatnot.
You learn so much by meeting all the people. That's actually brilliant.
Yeah, indeed. So that's my way of getting on the curiosity angle and trying to explore more of who am I actually becoming. That's for me is the kind of the journey of the unknown and embracing it alongside. Yeah.
And I love saying, you are still on a journey. Like there is no age where you say like, I figured it out now and I know what I'm doing with my life and this is my life. Like no matter what age, you're always on a journey and you're always redefining, rediscovering. You're also always changing. So your journey is always different, and it's good to always like think about where your journey should be and what you should do.
Absolutely. And listening, sometimes just being attentive, observant to your new traits, your new passions. With that comes a tiny bit of a hurdle. And I think we kind of touched base on it before we've caught up here for the recording, right? We were discussing about prioritizations of that as a person with a huge luggage of experience, you kind of can do everything that your mind puts you to it. The key question is, what should you do so that you can still keep your right balance, your healthy balance of, finding your passions, but at the same time being the one that can monetize their experiences to the right level. So I think that's one question that I think we can discuss at the moment, because it's like the next step of how do you find yourself so that it's not detrimental to yourself.
Exactly. And it is so tricky. I actually put this on my LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, where I was thinking like, how can I actually take my skills, what I'm really good at, what I learned in my corporate career and like where I have passion, etc. How can I combine it with like my excitement, like what the world needs, etc.
Yeah.
But also how can I monetize it? Like how can I bring it all together? And honestly, I'm not an expert in it. I'm currently still figuring out what to do. And when I posted on LinkedIn, I got so many responses from different people and they were all brilliant. But to be fair, I think what really came down to was just like, sometimes you just need to step away and to just have a bit of time and space so that you can think clearly. And then it's really just listening to yourself, because oftentimes what you're really passionate about, this is then also where you want to educate yourself in, which means you develop the skills, which then also when you're really passionate and you have the skills, it will lead to monetization anyways. So I think if you're thinking about it, and again, I'm not an expert, this is just something that I kind of distilled to it for me in that way, is really think about what you absolutely fucking love doing. There's a great way to think about it, actually. If in the world, every profession would pay exactly the same, what profession would you want to do? Mm-hmm. So that's like a brilliant way of thinking.
I love this question. Well done.
Yeah, because then you're really following your passion and then not worrying too much about the monetization, etc., because they will fall into place when you start doing it, because you would love to do it every day and then you get better every day. Then you become such an expert that monetization will just naturally follow.
What comes to mind now you're saying, so there's definitely a trait of someone who has a free mind, a free space in their head in terms of pursuing the new goals and finding themselves or shaping them up. But I recently have been acquainted with this new book called The Empire of AI. And the lady who came to the podcast literally this week, we filmed the episode with her, Karen Howe, the author. She's been the one who has explored the life of Sam Altman to the point where she looked into his childhood, who he was when he was becoming, and his traits and whatnot. And what was really interesting about, to the point to what you were saying, is that when he was a tiny bit younger and he didn't enter into this hurdle of trying to outsmart some other big tech companies to get to the goal of artificial general intelligence, he was actually very much funded and interested in becoming a writer, mind you. And then he said himself in one of his interviews that apparently, back then, he also realized that by being a writer, he wouldn't earn a lot of money. So he chose the other route that would make him money. I wonder if in doing so, he hasn't lost himself. So it's kind of,
Do you know
question.
Whether he regretted it?
There's no traits to that.
I would love to
It's
ask
very
it.
corporate. But yeah, that's the question I would ask too.
Yeah.
Just making sure that, how you feel now. Like, have you lost yourself in the process? Of course, you've earned a lot of money and you're still on the track to do so. But like, how do you feel back to your other self?
Yeah, is it soul
self?
destroying? Because that's the thing, like, is money everything? Like, it is not. Like, yes, by all means, I'm all up for making money. Money is great. It enables you to do a lot of things. But then if it's really soul destroying and you do it in a way that is not in alignment with yourself, then no, why not? You could be so happy to just live on a beach with a beach bar, if that's something you want to do, with very little money. There's like this anecdote of like a fisherman where, he goes fishing every day and they have like a conversation with a businessman, and the businessman says like, oh, what do you want to do with your life, etc. And he said like, well, if I was a millionaire, I would still want to fish every day because that's what I love to do. So
that's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just thinking about like, what are you actually want to do for the rest of your life?
Exciting. It really is, because it makes you, as I say, be observant and think about it in a little bit more natural way and unrepressed way at the same time, with which I'm very inclined to ask you this other question around how you find yourself at the moment regarding your expertise that you've accumulated over the years, particularly at LinkedIn, because as a topic we're focusing on, the type of skills that might be the future proof for the age of change, the age of automation. And of course, there's no current perfect recipe that would fit everyone out there. And we're currently in a market that's severely hit by unemployment still. If not in future, probably even more. But we're trying to uncover those traits that makes us the same relevant for who we are, but also, relevant for the market where we want to operate. So taking a look into the market where you want to operate now, as someone who's coming out of LinkedIn, right, with a luggage of experiences that you have, as you said earlier in the beginning of our conversation, uncovered through your desire to see if the recipes that you put forward for your clients do really work, right? So you now have both. You have your experience, you have your recipes that you've seen working, right? What do you want to teach people?
Yeah. So, I had a conversation actually yesterday. I was on a round table with tech execs, very high up CIOs of multi-billion-dollar companies. Yeah. I know nothing about AI, by the way, and tech, but I had the privilege of being there. And towards the end, I had a conversation with one lady, and she talked about how the younger generation, Generation Alpha, Generation Z, how they don't want to work and they will be out of work, and the state needs to give them all the benefits. And anyways, as I said, it was late in the evening. She might have had a few glasses of wine. But it was a really interesting conversation, because I do wonder, skills for everyone. Yes, we talk about this, but I'm also thinking particularly about those people that are coming out of university that maybe don't have that luggage of experience yet. What do they need to pay attention to, and how can they set themselves up for success, especially in the world of AI? Because a lot of the entry-level jobs, they might be replaced by AI in the future. So how can you make sure that in this world we live in, and then this is now the bridge, not just the students or the younger generation, but also us, how can we make sure we are positioned for whatever is happening in the world? Because we don't know with AI how the world is going to shape. And I'm so passionate about this, because in the world of AI, what can't be taken from you is your personal brand. It's your DNA. It's your unique self with the skills that you have, no matter what it is, if it's user design, if it's you're a surgeon, whatever it is. But then also you like to do yoga, you like to play football, you have kids. This is all making up your DNA. You're one person. You are so unique. And then also your way of thinking, the way how you articulate yourself, the way how you show up, your character. This all is your package. And that is so unique. So therefore, I'm just so passionate about showing this in terms of building a personal brand. LinkedIn, obviously, I work for LinkedIn, but also I'm very passionate about the platform itself. And I handed in my notice, so I'm not tied to LinkedIn in that sense anymore. But I really love the platform because it gives that perfect opportunity to show who you are as a person, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, but also this 360 package of who you are, because AI cannot replace you. And therefore, it is so important to build your personal brand. And as we said earlier, I knew it in theory, but I've never done it in practice. And this is now that I've done it myself, I know how powerful it is and how many doors it unlocks, etc. I'm now very excited about AI in the future, because also I know I'm not scared that it can replace me, because it can't. But I put the effort in now that I am at this point that I don't need to be scared. So I would love to empower other people to follow suit, so they can create their own personal brand DNA that can't be taken.
How exciting and quite inspirational, I'd say. On that ground, might I ask, given the fact that you've shaped a lot of your experiences through understanding what works, what doesn't over at LinkedIn, what is the culture like for the employees at LinkedIn? What are some of the processes that you'd say that are different from other companies that are either enabling the employees or letting them alone to an extent?
Yeah, no. Oh, I love that you asked that question, because LinkedIn is the best employer I've ever worked for. I'm not being paid for saying this. I'm not just saying this because I'm still employed. Don't worry. This is my own personal opinion. Yeah. Because as I said earlier, I'm very bold, I'm very unapologetic, and I need to work when I was in corporate life for a company that accepts me the way how I am. And every company should do that. And if you're not a good cultural fit, then you're at the wrong company. And everyone should just show up as their true authentic selves. And LinkedIn is amazing at enabling that. So there was never a situation in terms of our team meetings culture where I was, or just even in the bigger picture of the organization, everyone was very encouraged to show up as themselves. And that was the key aspect. And of course, in terms of they pay well, they have great perks, benefits, it is a great, from just, let's say the basics and the foundation, an amazing company. But I think what is really just so important is encouraging every employee to be their true selves. And then do the best work. If you are happy and authentic, you just deliver the best work.
Interesting, because you mentioned that element of LinkedIn as an empowering organization, right, towards their employees. I've recently noticed on LinkedIn a lot of the executives are taking the step of filming their own videos and posting it quite regularly. We're talking about the directors of HR. We're talking about people who are leading departments and whatnot, and yet they're taking the time to appear on LinkedIn in a form of short video content. Is there some form of a internal prescription or maybe internal recipe to be able to empower you to do that, or how does it work?
Yeah, it is so important, especially so if you're not just like a founder or like whatever, if you are an employee, and executives are ultimately employees as well, but they need to show their face. They want to showcase what it means to work at LinkedIn, what LinkedIn stands for, to attract talent, but also then like in terms of like shareholders, etc. So they are the face of the brand, so they need to show up. And it's actually funny because not everyone at LinkedIn, not every executive is actually active on LinkedIn. But those that are, they really are inspirational and people look up to them. And in terms of video, etc., video is a huge aspect because it's so good to just come across as your natural self. Like right now we are being filmed whilst you're talking. You can see my hand gestures. It's unfiltered. The way how I speak is just the best authentic way to show who you are as a person. And we try, we as LinkedIn, we try to showcase what great content would look like. So in terms of short form video, LinkedIn currently is still predominantly text-based, but we want to move into video. I mean, we had video, it's currently a bit like reshaped because it's not set up properly yet, but you can already see like content, if you post a video on LinkedIn currently, it has a much higher impression than just like your text post. You might not get as much engagement in terms of likes, etc. We don't really know why, but in terms of impressions, like eyeballs on your content is still already much higher. So we know, and this is not like, I have no insights into the algorithm, nobody. No. If anyone says they have, they're lying, unless they're like married to the person who designs the algorithm, or they are the algorithm person themselves. But we can see, just like we're looking at our own numbers of our own posts, and like I'm saying we in terms of like content creators, we talk to each other. So we know that video is being prioritized on the platform. And also LinkedIn has also said that basically in order to compete with the TikToks, the YouTube Shorts, the Reels, etc. Like the way how we consume content nowadays is just like our attention span is so short. It needs to be entertaining. It needs to be grabbing. And therefore, like in terms of how to film a video, is like on LinkedIn is exactly the same as on other platforms. Like the short, authentic, like unpolished kind of view, because then again, like as I said earlier, this is how you show who you really are, how you speak, how you look, like just your true self. That is the best way to show up, and those are also the videos that perform the best. Always, of course, on LinkedIn with like the work aspect in mind and talking about like experiences at work, and like LinkedIn's mission is to create equal opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So it is work that we talk about on LinkedIn, but that doesn't mean it needs to be in a suit and professional and in the office. Work can also be you go on a run and you film your thoughts, and you can talk about, I don't know, a meeting that you're going to prepare for later, or the thoughts that you had about a meeting that happened yesterday. Like those are authentic, real insights. And our executives try to lead by example. So they share some content like this, but you can see this now with a lot of like senior executives. They are brilliant at doing it. And that really then, as I said earlier, that encourages employees like, actually, that's a really cool company. I want to work for that company. Or like shareholders, they see like, oh, okay, that's the vision behind like the strategy that is like in the financial report. Like nobody fucking loves reading a financial report. It's so boring. It's so written in like the same sort of language. It's the same blah, blah stuff. But actually, if you have an executive talking about it with their own perspective, with their own voice, it comes to life. And then shareholders, etc., people are much more invested if they're behind the mission. So yeah, it's a brilliant way to bring everything to life.
See, you're talking about, expressing yourself basically on LinkedIn, isn't it? Be it as an executive, be it someone who is simply employed by some other company, but they're also wanting to show up and build their personal brand on LinkedIn. And I'd be very curious to find out, as part of this journey, is there at any point from what you've experienced yourself, because you've posted the good and the bad of your challenge, was there at any point when you felt like a certain level of anxiety and, a tiny bit of a fear about what should you say, what you shouldn't be saying over there?
So real. Oh, it's so real. In the beginning, like when you start from zero, and I was at 2,000 followers, but they were all my colleagues. They were all from like previous employers. Like, yeah,
bit more of a niche, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, I remember when I used to post, and it was like the odd time where I said like, oh, I got this award, or like, oh, we had this team meeting. It's so fucking boring. Nobody cares. And also it's like,
I still do that.
I mean, it is important to do this, but if this is the only content you're posting, it's like, yeah. And then also you only get comments from your colleagues. Like, it never goes outside of your network. And I remember the first time I actually had someone that I didn't know liking my content. I was like, oh, I made it. Like, I'm out in the world now. But in the beginning, it is so scary because exactly what I said, when I was at 2,000 followers, they were all people I used to work with, clients, ex-clients. Like, when you post, you think like, shit, what do they think about me? Like, is this cringe? Like, this word cringe is being thrown around so much, but it really hits the nail on the head because it feels so cringe. I think it also feels cringe because it's out of your comfort zone. You haven't done it before. You're not quite sure what people think. You're not sure if you will get likes. Like, will it resonate? Will people think like they're full of themselves, or like all those thoughts? But the thing is, first of all, we are so self-absorbed. We think about this way more than anyone else. Like, how...
I love that. Yep.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I don't give a shit what other people post. I mean, just like in the grand scheme of things, like if someone writes a post, I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, fine, on to the next one. And I would have forgotten about it tomorrow already anyways. So we are just overthinking it way too much. And I think for anyone who wants to start, as like a bit of a practical tip, you can start slowly. Like, you can start by just commenting on other people's posts. You can start by just sending connection requests, reaching out in the DMs. Maybe then your first post can just be about like a podcast, the key takeaways of a podcast that you listen to, a book that you're reading, or maybe book recommendations. It doesn't need to be like, look at me, or like, yeah, whatever it is, or like suddenly pretending you're a thought leader. And I think also what was really helpful for me, and to be fair, I'm still doing it, is I'm sharing my journey. I'm not pretending I'm a thought leader. I'm saying like, look, I'm just figuring this out. And this is what I'm learning along the way. And by doing this, I'm already showing that I am a thought leader because I share what I learned. And that shows that I now have that knowledge. But also that means if I'm failing, I can say, well, I'm trying. And I was very clear from the beginning that I'm trying and that I have no clue what I'm doing. So if I then fail, it doesn't feel as bad as if I'm like, bam, this is me. I have like this, and this, and I'm amazing. And then next week I'm saying, actually, no, it didn't work out. That would be like way worse in our head than just being upfront from the beginning. Like, this is a new adventure for me. Like, I'm very excited, figuring things out as I go, but I'm super passionate about it and I'm learning along the way. And if there's anyone in my network that can give me some tips and tricks, please reach out. You know, if you're just being humble and human, that makes it much less cringe in the beginning. So I think if you're like starting from zero and you understand the power of showing yourself and building a personal brand, start slowly, start behind the scenes, start talking about other bits and pieces. And then when you are starting to talk about yourself, don't pretend you have it all figured out. Like, just be humble, be human. Think about how would you talk to a friend, like a close friend, and then put this into a post. That is so much more authentic and genuine. And people also, I'm digressing, but it's like on your LinkedIn feed, like there are so many posts in exactly the same way, because nowadays it's so easy to use AI to create a post that just sounds exactly the same. And I think that is so much more cringe than just showing up as your authentic self. So people might think, okay, I'm new to LinkedIn, I want to build my personal brand, and I see this like AI tool, free to use, like it crafts my post, you just put in a thought. And actually the posts I come out with are decent, but everyone uses them. And therefore, you're just in that soup of like other AI posts, and there is no authenticity behind it. So I want to encourage people when they start posting, don't fall into the trap of just using ChatGPT or like any AI tools, because it just steals your personality. It steals the journey, like who you really are. So just start behind the scenes, then start like talking about something that is like within your comfort zone, like talking about a book or a podcast, etc. And then when you start posting about yourself, just be as you would speak to a friend. The thoughts that you're having, and don't be too like obsessed with like you need to have your niche figured out, like a lot of people, and that was me in the beginning as well. I was like, what is actually the content I want to talk about? Like there are so many things I'm passionate about. Like for example, you still work for an employer. Should I talk about just that employer? Or I want to become a coach. Should I talk about being a coach? But also I really like to eat Indian food. Should I talk about this? Like, don't overthink what your niche needs to be. Just start posting, start talking about things. You will naturally see what you really enjoy writing about, and that will then kind of become your niche. And also there are great ways to think about like how can you fit everything under one umbrella? Because as I said earlier, like this is your DNA. You might work for this company, you also want to do this, and you like Indian food, but you can all bring it under one umbrella, which then also means you can talk about all aspects. Because if you're very clear in your profile that this is who you are as a person, multi-passionate individual, then you can talk about this in your post as well. Sorry, that was like a really, I
felt like I'm on a masterclass already. You know? No, brilliant. Actually, it shows that definitely you're driven. It shows that you're coming from, and I use this metaphor to be able to describe the making of the recipes and the experiencing of the recipes. It's like a kitchen where you've put on various ingredients, right? And you've tried it themselves. You've seen the taste of an ingredient, and then now you can say, okay, so this pepper doesn't go into this content, right?
Brilliant.
Or whatever else.
Yes.
Isn't it?
It's absolutely brilliant.
So on that note, were there any particular peppers that you absolutely figured out as not necessarily helping the content that you're putting out there?
That's a really good question. I would say not to overthink it. Mm-hmm. There are ways on LinkedIn how to not favor the algorithm. Just to give like a few very practical tips.
Please,
like, for example, if your profile is not verified, one of the things, like LinkedIn is the most trusted social media platform. It's the only platform where people show up with their real names. Like nowadays, if you want to reconnect with like someone from your school or whatever it might be, they might not be on Facebook, or there might be like 10 people with the same name. It's like all a bit, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but anyways, Facebook is just a bit of like a dormant space, I feel, but that is maybe my generation. But on Instagram, it might be a nickname and like etc. But like LinkedIn, you just see instantly who that person is. You see where they work, so you can more easily identify.
It's like a CV in that sense.
It is.
Initially.
It is, but it shows the real person.
Yes.
And therefore, people show up as their real selves. However, if you're not verified on the platform, you could be a double profile, a fake profile, you could be an AI bot. So it is a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but apparently if you're not verified, the algorithm will not amplify your posts as much, because LinkedIn wants to stay this like trusted platform where only like real, authentic people show up. So that is like the first practical advice. And then in terms of posting, like so many traps to fall into, like reposting, for example, which is such a shame, because in the beginning, like it would be so easy to just repost other people's posts, to like, I start posting on LinkedIn and I repost other people's posts. The algorithm for some reason absolutely hates it. I don't know why. Absolutely fucking hates it.
You haven't put your own effort, probably. That's why.
Probably. But why does this functionality then like exist? But anyways, like a great way just to quickly to go around it. If you see like an amazing post, write it again in your own words. Make very clear that you found this on XYZ's profile or XYZ source. These are the key insights, and write it as your own post. You can still use the same images as long as you make very clear the source of your post rather than reposting it. So yeah, reposting is just another like trap that people fall into where it just doesn't work. The next one is like external links in your post. Again, just like thinking logically about it. LinkedIn is a revenue-driven company. Like we as LinkedIn, and I'm not representing LinkedIn, but we are wanting to make money, and we make money by having the most people on the platform, staying on the platform for as long as we can, in terms of selling advertisement space, in terms of selling job slots. Like we are a massive like job platform, but only companies will post their jobs if they know that people are actually looking at the jobs. So we need the users on the platform. So if you have a post and you put an external link in, that takes people off of LinkedIn. So LinkedIn doesn't like it. So again, bit of a rumor. It's not confirmed, but apparently the algorithm doesn't like it if you put an external link in it. And then last but not least, in terms of like content, in terms of the media that you use with your content, if you have like a picture of yourself, for example, a selfie, they oftentimes perform really well, because from a psychology reason, I have no idea whether that's true, but like if you can see people's eyes, you stay on it for longer, and then therefore the algorithm thinks, that must be like a really interesting post, so therefore it performs better. Same as like with infographics, for example, they need to be good quality. And sometimes the shame is the way how we behave on the platform. If we scroll through it and we see an infographic, oftentimes we just don't have the headspace to really look into it. If you look at it, it's great, it performs well, but oftentimes with a selfie, it grabs our attention just a bit more.
Got you. Mm-hmm.
But then also don't fall into the trap of just like posting selfies, because that is just like
overdoing it.
You're overdoing it. And also you become so predictable. So this is a bit more of like an advanced like advice, but like keep your audience on their toes. Like you don't want your content to look the same every day, because then when they see your selfie, they just scroll past. They just think like, oh yeah, it's the same kind of post. So you want to keep your audience on their toes with like different media. Like if you attach also, for some weird reason, the algorithm likes if you have more than just 1 or 2 pictures, like 3 pictures apparently perform better attached to a post than just 1 picture. No idea why. So play around with it. Like sometimes post with like 3 pictures, sometimes just post a selfie, sometimes do an infographic, sometimes do just text only. Play around with it. But those are kind of like the things where in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. Like I was just posting also like long blocks of text. Nobody reads it. Our attention span is so small nowadays. Like don't put like an hour's work into crafting a post and writing everything down, because people are just like, fuck that, I'm not reading that. So yeah.
It's really priceless. Thank you so much. Some of the myths here, I think you've debunked some of them in terms of like what's the type of the right picture to put on, what's the type of the right creative, the right text, even how long, how short should it be. It's a lot that needs to go into consideration, right? Because ultimately when you're posting, to your point earlier, why not listen to yourself first in terms of when crafting that message or text or what might that be, instead of just immediately giving the prompt to ChatGPT and asking it to do it for you, because then not only will you not have the gut and the desire to do it yourself after that, to just compare the outcomes and whatnot, but you kind of, drifted and you've completely demotivated yourself in that journey to actually do anything else with
looking for a shortcut. And that's just not how life works.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And the point around the shortcuts and whatnot, because ultimately it's knowing when and the balancing out act of it, isn't it?
You touched onto something that is so important, because a lot of us, we want to post on LinkedIn to make money. We want to generate revenue for our business. So how do you actually show up on LinkedIn that actually converts? Because that's the thing, like when I grew my following from 2,000 to 10,000, I got so many comments of saying like, well, it's a vanity metric. Like, what do you want to achieve with 10,000 followers? Like, it doesn't mean anything if they are just like random people from all over the world just looking at your content. If you want to build a business, they need to be buying from you. Like you need to enable them to buy, but also you don't want to be that person holding up the sign saying like, I'm selling this, like, please buy from me. So you want to find like content that actually converts in a very authentic and genuine way. Also, in terms of like the content that you should post, like we always say, like it should be like the 80-20 rule, like 80% thought leadership and 20% like personal, because people want to see the person behind the scenes. As I said earlier, it's part of the package. Like the more people can already see who you are as a person, the more they will decide whether you are someone they want to do business with, because people make emotional buying decisions. Like I would never buy from someone that I think is an absolute prick. Like you just
fair enough.
You just want to like, you just buy from people you like. And the more you can already show who you are, the more you weed out the people that have no interest in buying from you anyways, and the more you attract the people that actually think like, yeah, that's a really good person, I want to buy from that person. And in terms of like the content, so you want to have like that personal aspect showing who you are, and then we have the thought leadership, and there's like this golden middle where you tell a story. Like storytelling is amazing. It sounds like so overcomplicated. It's not, but it's basically just like talking about your experience, like the skills that you have, etc., the passion that you have, with a bit of an anecdote of something that happened last week, something that happened previous in your life, something that happened when you spoke to someone else, a client conversation that you had, or like a successful meeting that led to a big deal, whatever it might be. Like this is like weaving in that storytelling, but also sharing your knowledge. And in terms of like this whole storytelling, like arch or like aspect on how it flows, it's like basically you think about, you have that the hero of the story, they had an issue, a challenge, what did they try to overcome it, where did they fail, but then also what did they try differently, and has this worked, and if it has worked, like how does their life look now? So it's like this like kind of like, yeah, it flows nicely, people are entertained, people love to vouch for the hero, so they love to see like the challenges, and that just resonates with people so well. And this way then, if you talk about like your clients, what you're doing, etc., this is indirectly selling yourself. You indirectly show how you helped someone else without like holding up the sign saying like, I'm selling this. But then also I'm really encouraging people to not shy away from saying that they have something to sell, because if nobody knows that you have something to sell, then they will not buy from you. So you can put at the end of the post saying like, you tell like your story, and then at the end of the post you can say like, if you want to see how I can help you, drop a DM or book in a call or whatever it might be. One simple sentence. But you can put that into your post. You don't have to put it into every post, but put it into your post and set up your profile in that way that actually shows you have something to sell. There is a link to book an appointment. There's a link to book in whatever service it is that you offer. So yeah, that combination of having a good profile and then the content that converts, that's
exciting. I love how you've touched base on this very crucial question around the KPIs, right? What do you want to achieve from your LinkedIn posts? Because with every content that we post out there, if we're just doing it for the sake of it, just so it gets visibility, it's not necessarily something that ultimately long-term will pay off, and you will feel discouraged just as much, right? Whereas in your case, what you're saying is, you did receive those various comments around your challenge being the fact that, okay, so you will achieve this number, the 10K, what's next out of it? Like, why is that the number that you care about? And ultimately, what it sounds like you're saying, you were interested as much in the process, not necessarily in the ultimate number that you would get out of it, right? Because the process itself, it's quite important because you learn as part of it. You have put to try your recipes that you were giving away to your clients, and you could vividly see what's actually working and what not. Again, I would say this is the case of bravery, because just, we as part of the corporate world, of course, doing advertising for brands and whatnot, we were bombarded in a sense with all sorts of advice from the, people working in the platforms of the advertising nuance, right? Whereby you would wonder, okay, so we're receiving all of these lovely advices, but do they actually work? Is it just because the person works for the platform and they know because it's something as an insider information that they have access to, or because they've actually seen it in action, right? It's always a perennial question that I'm sure none of us will have the final answer as clients, right? But as someone who actually puts it in practice and see it work or doesn't work, it's kind of crucial.
Exactly. I was just working with a coach the other day. Well, I say working, I reviewed her profile, and it was all just theoretical. And this was the feedback I gave to her, like, you said you are a serial founder. How many businesses have you founded? What were those businesses? She said nothing about these, whether on her profile, whether in her content, nothing. And she asked me if I were to join her business setup program. And I said I'm sorry, but no, because you haven't proven to me that you actually can do it. You said that you're a serial founder, but all of those businesses could have failed. I don't know. You are not giving me the proof. However, I just invested 7K, which is so much money, into a program of someone who is a very, very well-known figure on LinkedIn. But that person has shown they are very successful, and it's very clear in their profile what they have achieved. And I'm just yes, I want exactly what that person has achieved for myself. That's why I'm paying for this. But yeah, if you're not showing that you can do what you're claiming on doing, then yeah, you're not building that credibility.
See, you've touched base on an interesting question, and I think we're closely wrapping up, but this question will still keep me, if anything, up, just trying to dig deeper under the intricacies of LinkedIn. And that is, from what you've seen working and throughout your entire experiences, what is that one thing that you don't know about how LinkedIn functions that you would do and invest, as you said yourself, 7K or maybe even more in time, that you would really want to find out for yourself?
So I think very quickly, two parts to this, because what I found out myself, and I really want other people to know, because that's something I wasn't aware, and I want to make sure that people, think about this, is the algorithm. We talked about the peppers in the recipe, but also it's what's going on behind the scenes, the commenting, how active you are in the DMs, how many connection requests you're sending. This all will determine if your posts will perform well. If you're very active in the background, all of your content will perform so much better. So that is one aspect that I learned, and people don't know, and I want to make sure they take this away. And then for me, what I want to learn in the future with LinkedIn is the monetization aspect. It's how can I, when I'm now setting up my business to help founders and executives, I have a lot of people coming to me already, but if I want to scale it up, how can I really scale it up even more? How can I put in a business in place that is robust, where I can still use my LinkedIn to scale it, get clients in, but also then potentially thinking about and I want to be very transparent here, what happens if LinkedIn goes bust tomorrow? All of my followers, all of my clients, all of my business would be dead. So I want to think about how can I take those followers that I'm building away from LinkedIn? How can I build up my own CRM database, newsletter, etc.? So that's something I want to learn. How can I transfer my audience offline? And then I can, with the algorithm as well, if I schedule a post, only a fraction of my followers will see it because the algorithm is not sending it to everyone. But if I send a newsletter, for example, it will be distributed to everyone. So I want to have more ownership. And that's something that's kind of the next step. I've already built my audience, and now what's next? I want to continue building my audience. I'm very passionate about LinkedIn. It opens so many doors, but I want to make sure that sustainability of what I'm building is actually guaranteed.
You've mentioned one of your posts that most recently you've reached out to someone on LinkedIn and that secured your partnership with IBM, was it?
Yes.
Was there any particular goal that you've set yourself in front of it, or what was that reach out to that person?
I just literally started talking to people on LinkedIn, starting having conversations in the DMs, and I stumbled across someone based in LA, and he just said like, oh yeah, let's have a coffee chat. And I jumped on a call with him, no idea what to expect, and we just started talking. And then he said like, oh yeah, I'm running these businesses, I do this and this, they're very successful, blah blah blah. And I said like, how are you actually scaling these? And then we talked about it a little bit, and that was it. And then I was sitting there after the call, and I thought like, actually, like, let me send him another message, because I'm going to quit my job. I need to make money. I'm brilliant at sales, worked in B2B tech sales for ages. Well, 15 plus years, that shows how old I am. And
it doesn't. On the face of it, it doesn't. Right, next.
And he has a successful business that is about to scale, but he has no one on the ground in the UK. So I basically pitched myself and I said like, look, you are very busy with what you're doing. You want to scale, but how are you actually scaling? Do you have a sales force in place? Like, do you have a person that is dedicated to helping you scaling that business? And this is where I come in, like with my expertise of 15 years in B2B tech sales. I have a great network. I'm brilliant at sales. Like, if that is something that actually would be worthwhile for you, let's have a chat. And I also added in saying like, for me personally, because I'm not just doing this to do you a favor, like for me personally, I want to work on something that excites me. And this would absolutely tick my box. So if that works, let's have a chat. And I think that was just like the way where I just thought like, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that the guy thinks, yeah, she's really keen, but we don't need her. Fair enough, but he still leaves with a positive impression of myself.
Of course.
I just gave it a go and see what happens. And also, yes, I pitched myself, but I think I pitched myself in a very like gentle way, saying like, I have in mind, like the first thing I mentioned was, what is your problem? Like, how can I help you? Then I said how I'm helping you, but then also personally saying like, as I said, like, I'm not doing this for charity. Like, I want to do something that excites me. Like, this is what I'm getting out of it. So I'm being very transparent with my motives. And I think this combination of just like pitching myself in a short way, but making very clear how I help them, the way how I'm doing it. Yeah. And it worked. I mean, I'm very
exciting.
happy.
You've just showcased an example of a brilliant outreach in terms of, how you make yourself quite expressive in terms of what is it that you're after, but at the same time being quite open in terms of what's important to them. And that's how you start that conversation, isn't it? Because that question that I had for you was around how would you suggest were some of the key pathways of building relationships on LinkedIn in terms of growing your business, in terms of being a founder who wants partners along the way. So it sounds like you're just uncovering that.
Yeah, a very natural and genuine way is by just opening conversations in the DMs, by just asking, how's your week been? Like, you basically, like, for example, what I like to do is when I send a connection request, you can add a note. If you have a premium profile, you can add a note. I would highly recommend, I'm not selling this, but like I would highly recommend get at least a premium profile. You can sign up for free for a month, try it out. If you don't like it, leave it. But it allows you to leave that message. And then when I reach out, so normally I would go through like, I don't know, where I think with like the Level Up Book Club, I wanted to attract like more women into my audience. So what I did, I went into like posts of like Mel Robbins or like Grace Beverly, like women that I find very inspirational. I looked into their content and I saw the comments that were left under their posts. So I had a look of the woman that commented recently under those posts. I click onto their profile. So that means I like their comment. So they get information that I like their comment. They see that I viewed their profile. LinkedIn likes it because they see that I viewed their profile before I send a connection request. So I'm not a bot.
Yeah.
And then when I do send a connection request, what I say is then like, hey, Julia, I saw your comment under Grace Beverly's recent post. Absolutely love Grace. She's a powerhouse. Would love to expand my network with like-minded, high energy women. How's your week been? And that's it. Something like this, obviously in your own style, but you show you are personal by saying, hey, Julia, you're saying how you found her profile, you're saying why you want to connect, and you're just open and lighthearted. And then oftentimes, Julia then comes back and says like, I'm good, or my week's been good, how about you? And then this is where the pitching could come in. Like when you feel like it's the right time and you could say like, oh, I just came off a coaching call with one of my clients, love the way how we are transforming her life, very like stoked for her, but now it's time for me to put up my feet and enjoy a glass of wine. That way, you have indirectly said you're a coach. You indirectly said that you're very passionate about what you're doing. You're saying that you're very helpful to your clients, but also you're humble by saying, look, I'm now needing to decompress. If then Julia, in this case, would be interested, she will ask more questions. If she needs a coach, she now knows you are a coach. And then, yeah, you can ask more questions. She might not be interested, then she will not ask more questions, the conversation might fizzle out, but that's fine. She will now continue to see your content in the future. She might need you. She will then think of you. You will be front of mind. Or she will speak to her friend Laura, who says, I'm desperate for a coach. And then it's like, oh yeah, I actually was in touch with this person. Let me send across the profile. Like, you never know, but it's such a gentle way of pitching what it is that you're doing without saying, book in a call.
What you're saying is you first take an interest in the person and what they've commented about and what really is important to them first. And you're showing a very light route into just, positioning yourself in one way or another, but not necessarily in your face push type of way, isn't it?
Exactly.
Wow. That's such a beautiful note to wrap it up, because I felt like not only you've been absolutely, abundant with all sorts of recipes that you have found yourself as working as part of the journey, but also you came with such genuine advice to anyone who is in their career, be it a founder, be it a graduate, be it someone who wants to see themselves growing on LinkedIn in a more genuine way. Thank you so much for this.